Watching Kyle's unboxing videos again?
Yeah, he always finds the coolest... No way! A robot dog? Gotta ask where he got it.
Or use your Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. Just draw a circle around the dog on your screen, and it shows you where to buy it right in the app.
Whoa, I just learned a new trick. And that for once, I beat Kyle to the next big thing.
Circle it, find it with the new Galaxy S24 Ultra and circle the search with Google. Get yours now at Samsung.com. Internet connection required. Results may vary based on visuals.
A fabulous free kick from Leighton Baines. Dawson, oh, what a finish from Glenn Dawson, it's 2-0. It's scored by Tim Cahill in injury time for Everton. Matheson, the 16-year-old, to Wilbraham, the 40-year-old. Stunning from James Rodriguez. And here into Henderson! And Ian Henderson, right on half-time.
Welcome everybody to episode 4. My name is Greg, I'm a Rochdale supporter, and I'm here with Jimmy and Matt, Everton supporters. How you doing, lads? You okay?
Good, mate, Greg.
Yeah, not bad at all. Not bad.
Get through lockdown now. I think all the dates are here, aren't they now?
Seeing the light at the end of the COVID tunnel.
June the 21st.
Then we'll be out of it.
Is that
the
date?
And England play Czech Republic the next day, apparently, so
yeah?
Absolute beers on everyone. Boris has got it all planned out. Come out of lockdown 21st, England Czech Republic 22nd, pubs open, full Wembley, and back in lockdown again on the 23rd, because let's face it.
I've actually booked the London trip. I didn't know. I booked this way before they announced this roadmap, as they call it. We're going to London on the 21st of June, of all the dates I've got it picked. So I thought, I'm a mixture of like, oh, brilliant. Then I was like, oh no, it's going to be full of idiots out. Anyway, football.
We'll start with the Chelsea game. Chelsea against Everton, Stamford Bridge on Monday. We'll go to you, Matt, first.
Bit of a tough watch, I'll be honest. They never really got going. We went with a plan which has worked really well this season. After being, 9 unbeaten away, I think we were, up until the game. Clearly went with the idea of sitting back, trying to hit them on the counter. And we were doing pretty well. For the first half an hour, we didn't have a mass amount of chances, but we hadn't restricted Chelsea to anything particularly worrying. And the on-goal happens, and it's a bit unlucky for Ben Godfrey. You can't really do much about it. It's a good move from Chelsea. I think Holgate switched off at full-back. I think the first goal was probably what killed it more than the second goal. Just changed the game plan, and we never really got going after that. I think Chelsea knew with that goal we'd have to come out and have a go at them. Just sat back. Pickford gives away the penalty for the second goal, which is a bit unfair, really, because he was actually brilliant on the night. Made a couple of top-class saves across the 90 minutes. It showed really how far we've still got to go to compete with those teams. I mean, Chelsea should, under Thomas Tuchel, should finish in the top 4, I would say, judging by what I've seen. Mainly because they've got the strength and depth that we just don't have. I mean, you compare the benches. The fact that Chelsea could bring on, Kante came on, Mason Mount came on, and we were bringing on, no offence to them, but Bernard came on and Tom Davies. These are players which are not the same level. As good as Davies, I'd have to say, has been this season, he's not N'Golo Kante, put it that way, bless him. It's one of those games that you sit there and you watch it, and as soon as the penalty went in, you went, yeah, barring some kind of minor miracle, we just take this one as a lesson learned. We gave it a go, move on to Burnley on Saturday. It wasn't a terrible performance. I think it just showed that Chelsea had just acres above us. It showed really how poor Chelsea have been under Lampard. Get to Saturday, Burnley at home. Hopefully should be 3 points. We'll have to wait and see.
It's a script we've seen many times before. Particularly, I think we have to add in the fact that it was our third game in 6 days. The Southampton game and West Brom game at home, West Brom away I should say, were pretty much carbon copies of the same game. Quite fortunate to come away with a 1-0 win, especially with West Brom in the last minute getting a goal ruled out by that Diagne, who I thought was fantastic throughout their performance. Our record at Stamford Bridge, as I've touched on in previous weeks, is atrocious. I think we've won there, in way over 20 years, come to 30 years now.
Is it that long?
And it's a long time. It's longer than our Anfield drought we had. I think it's probably longer than our record at Arsenal, which is awful. We never won at the Emirates, and I don't think we won at Highbury since about 1996 or something mad. I'll have to fact check that one. But it seemed to me like players were just tired. A few changes were made. Like Matt said, I echo exactly what he said, that we are quite a way off a Champions League level team. Chelsea under Tuchel should make top 4 to keep the key players fit. Think about the likes of Mason Mount and N'Golo Kante. Mendy, the keeper, because obviously Kepa's been a big issue for them goalkeeper-wise the last few years. I do think if we can finish in Europa League place this season, it will be a good achievement. We're a good side, but we're not a top side. We're far from being a top side, and it's the kind of fixture. We've gone to Stamford Bridge and had some right pummelings down the years. Doesn't surprise me that we've come on the end of it. Unfortunate, but pardon the pun, it was a bridge too far, really. for us. And like we say, we move, we take the result. It's going to happen. Unless you're a side that's going to dominate the league and win every single game, which is rare happens, you're going to get defeats, you're going to be outplayed. And it just was one of those, really, where we were outplayed on the night after quite a few tough fixtures. You move on. You take it and you move on. You accept your lot, accept where you are at the moment, and you hope that we can improve in the next few games and in games to come. So, Greg, Rochdale, last time we spoke, it was a few points with the relegation zone. I think you were 18th at the time. What's gone on since then, mate? The last 2 weeks, it's what has gone on at Dale the last few weeks, mate.
Can't remember what happened at the Burton game because they're all merging into one now.
Yeah.
It's like one big blurry mess at the moment. But yeah. I can remember the whole game, which was last week.
Indeed.
Hull won 2-0. I've been to the KCOM Stadium, and I think I went a few days after that you and me went to Berlin. Did we go with Jason and Brian?
Yes.
I think the next week we had Hull in the League Cup, I think. I always forget how big the pitch is at Hull. It seems to be huge. It seems to be really wide.
It is quite cavernous. That as well, don't forget they play rugby league there. Hull FC plays rugby league there, so they need quite a sizable pitch for the rugby games as well.
I thought we started okay, to be honest. We restricted Hull. We restricted them for a good 20 odd minutes or what have you. Well, the first goal for Hull just came out of the blue, really, like a shot from distance. And personally, I think Bazunu could have done a bit better than that because it's from distance. I don't think it was coming at any massive pace. He hadn't absolutely pelted the ball, but I think he could have possibly saved it. You're in the moment, aren't you, when you're a goalkeeper? You can't. It's easy for me to sit here and watch it and say he could have got that. We built it up well from the wings with Jimmy Keohane, and I seem to be mentioning Jimmy Keohane's name quite a lot on these podcasts. Every time he gets the ball or he goes with it, he's either doing something with it or he's trying to create something. He's been consistent for a few weeks, in my opinion. But unfortunately, like the rest of the results, it didn't take long for Hull to get the second goal. I think the second goal for Hull, it hits one of our lads, a bit like the Everton goal Monday against Chelsea.
Like Godfrey's own goal.
Very similar. Yeah. I thought that was a bit unlucky, really, that it hit our bloke and it went in, like the Everton goal on Monday. But from that point, you can't... Hull City away from home, I think they're obviously in the top four or what have you. Couldn't really... That was too far then. You're always in the game when it's 1-0 up. You're always, even if it's in the 80th minute, you can still claw it back when it's 1-0. But I always feel that is the bridge too far, 2-0 in my opinion. We couldn't get anything. It was just it was unreachable, unattainable. It was a shame really, because I thought we did alright in the first 20 odd minutes. If we'd have kept it at 1-0, we would have had a chance, but it wasn't to be.
I think at time of recording, Hull now are top of League One. As evidenced last night as well, they won 3-1 at Peterborough, which is a traditionally notoriously quite hard place to go in the third division. So I think it goes to show the level as well. That Hull side's come down from the Championship, kept the faith in Grant McCann, and I think they are a solid team. And I think, like you say, going 2-0 up, it's the most dangerous scoreline in football, 2-0, but unfortunately when you're Rochdale, there ain't no danger at all, other than you're just going to lose, it seems, because you seem to have lost the last 4 games in 2 weeks, each by 2-0.
Yeah.
The Burton game, the Hull game, Sunderland, and of course, last night against Shrewsbury.
Shaughnessy got sent off. There was no malice in it. He got rescinded. He got overturned, which was... That tells you everything, really. If the officials or the FA or whoever, the FL even, are telling you that's not a red card and overturn it, then it isn't, is it really?
Yeah, between red cards and deflections, mate, all I'll say is when your luck's against you, when you're down the bottom, your luck's against you. When you're up the top, it all goes for you. And okay, I'm not suggesting you're bottom league because of poor luck. As you've shown, a little microcosm in one game, you've had a deflected goal, an incorrect red card. When you're down on your luck, you've just got to keep digging in and working hard as a team to try and make your own luck, and that's really difficult when you're struggling to come by goals, really.
We played last night, played Shrewsbury. Shrewsbury haven't won at Scotland in 20 years. They won last night. So I think the last time they won, Luke Rodgers played for Shrewsbury. I don't know if you remember Luke Rodgers.
Yes.
That's quite a long time ago.
Now he played for New York Red Bulls in the MLS. I also think he scored against Everton in the 2-1 Cup upset in 2002. I
think he did.
2003 season.
Yeah, I think he did.
Where we went to the old Gay Meadow, lost 2-1, so a Shrewsbury side that ended up getting relegated from what was then Division 3, what's now League 2, into the National League. We had Wayne Rooney playing for us, amongst others, and I'm sure... Oh no, Nigel Jemison scored both goals, but Luke Rodgers actually did play in that game as well. So he was dangerous up front, and I think he bounced around a bit before getting a good move to New York Red Bulls in the MLS. So that shows how long ago that was. He was playing against an Everton side in 2002 that knocked us out the cup in one of the biggest cup shocks in history.
I remember watching that.
That's a while since. I remember the score coming through. I remember being in town that day, and it was like, as if we were losing to Shrewsbury. It was a late goal, and it was like, you're kidding me.
They had Joe Hart in net, didn't they?
No, that was some years later. I think Joe Hart was there. I could be wrong.
Right.
Yeah, not as early as
a couple of years later at least.
2003 is too early for Joe Hart.
2002 it was, 2003, yeah. 2003, I think, yeah, but yeah. God, yeah. So that's a while ago. Anyway, Luke Rodgers, yeah, it's a blast from the past. Remember him well. Not a bad centre forward, really.
I always call it the old Division 4, but I don't know what people.
The old Division 4 now, in old money, innit?
Played 176, scored 65, so that's one in every. One in
three, pretty much.
Yeah,
it's not bad, is it?
No idea he played for New York Red Bulls. There's a photo of him here on Wikipedia in the New York Red Bulls kit. First half, I thought we were fine. Completely acceptable first half, in my opinion. I don't think we were shocking, but I don't think we were amazing at any point. But I thought it was acceptable. We had a few decent chances. Everybody looked a bit lively for it. It's one of those games where a lot of Dale fans thought, this is a chance where we can get 3 points. I know we've said that in previous weeks where it's been Burton and different things like that. But in terms of playing the teams that are around us, that's sort of gone. And then we had Hull and Sunderland, so we were never going to. I weren't expecting anything from Hull and Sunderland, but Shrewsbury was sort of in the middle ground. On an odd day, you could probably get a result against Shrewsbury. We did it a few seasons ago, last season, what have you. And the streak that they haven't won in 20 years was sort of bouncing around, if you get me. I don't know what happened in the second half, but we were just absolutely off the boil completely. They just seemed like really easy goals. And I know I've mentioned before about Bazunu can probably save that. But I don't know what is an easy goal sometimes in terms of watching it on the telly and not watching it live and things like that. I don't know if I was in the stadium, I don't know if I'd say, that's an easy goal, like I would do watching it on the telly. But there seems to be a lot of them recently where I go, that seemed a bit easy. It wasn't particularly a great goal, do you know, when you look at them and you go, blimey, come on, we could have avoided that. There just seems like we could have done something about those goals. So my dad seems to think there's something with the Dale players that Darts players get.
Like the yips.
Is it the yips, Matt? You might.
Yeah. Stop drinking 10 pints before you play, is it?
No, it's not like that.
No, it's golfers. Is it golfers get it? Golfers get it too, isn't it? Was the idea it's fear. You just forget how to do the basics of things. Darts players get it quite heavily.
They kept onto the ball for too long in the second half, and there were plenty of opportunities to pass it to our own players that were unmarked.
A mental
block. And I think that's what the Dale players have got. They're not releasing the ball quick enough. They're just hanging on to it. And I think that's a confidence issue now. I think it's sunk in a little bit too much now in terms of we've not won in all kinds of different ridiculous statistics.
That's very concerning if it's a group of players collectively. Now, this sounds almost like some kind of Space Jam type, Michael Jordan's lost his powers type thing. Not that I'm comparing Rochdale to Michael Jordan, but there's a comparison you never thought I'd make.
Nope.
But that sort of a group of footballers collectively as a unit forgetting how to play football. That is a deeper issue than just not having the quality on the pitch, having inexperience. That is fundamentally a psychological problem that the club need to look at. How can they resolve that issue before it's too late? I don't know how many games you've got left in League One now, but there needs to be some kind of, if it is that bad, if it is a psychological thing, they need to get help straight away to show that, look, at least you can put up a fight. 'Cause at the moment with Rochdale, it's looking to me like, you've said it, and BBM, I watched the interview after the game. He said, yeah, the first half was fine, but it's looking like, to be honest, from the outside looking in, there's not a lot of fight to stay in this league. You've gone from being, when we last recorded this podcast 2 weeks ago, 18th above the relegation zone. Okay, it was tight. It was tighter than, a duck's arse down there. It still is. But at the same time, you were out the relegation zone. It was in your hands. You've gone and lost 4 games in a row. 2-0. Okay, Hull and Sunderland, tough away games. And most Championship clubs wouldn't fancy Hull and Sunderland away. And some Premier League sides struggle, definitely. Like West Brom and Sheffield United probably struggle at the moment going there. But you can't blame just the last 4 games or a couple of away games on what has been. I think you can see the most goals in League One, if not the entirety of the Football League. And when the goals dry up, like we were saying, a few weeks ago, you're drawing 4-4, 5-5, winning whatever 5-0. That's great, but when the goals dry up, you've got to find a way of shutting up shop, which you had done with a couple of 0-0 draws against Northampton and against Plymouth. But what now? He sounded upbeat, BBM, in the interview. He seemed like he's the right man for the job. They even asked him, what do you think you're the right man for the job? Basically, he was like, well, if I don't think I am, then I understand. I don't know if he is. I can't say. I've not seen enough of you this season, but I think there are lots of factors to take into account with Dale at the moment. The fact that he said we've got to try and build a squad in League One with the lowest budget anyone's ever had in the third division. Now, I'm not sure how you can test that, because obviously finances of football have changed so much in the last 20 years alone. That, okay, maybe the lowest budget in the league, but you can't say a team in like the third division 30, 40 years ago would have had a bigger budget than Rochdale have now, because the economics of football has changed, doesn't it? So it's hard to say, and maybe that's an unfair comparison, but I just think there's something deeper going on, where there seems to be a lack of fight from some of the players, not all, and that does come down to the manager ultimately. And if it's a psychological issue, then what's he doing on the training ground? Because if those players are frightened in front of no supporters to take a risk, to take a step out, to find a pass, to there's no other distractions. Like the fans are getting on their back after 20 minutes if they're not 1-0 up. There's been no fans there all season. And conversely, okay, there's no fans to get behind them, but it's the same for everyone.
Do you reckon now it's more...
you hear about all kinds of clubs saying, not had our fans behind us this season. Well, it's been the case for everyone all season. If it's psychological, though, that needs to be nipped in the bud right away, because that's a major, major concern, if that's how it is.
Do you reckon it's acceptance of where you are? I mean, looking at the table, you're 5 points from safety. The team above you, Wimbledon, have got 2 games in hand over you as well, so that puts you potentially even further back. Is it just a team thinking, you've lost 4 out of the last 5? Is it just a case of accepting at this point where the players just can't seem to find a way out, and there's teams around them? Look, Burton Albion have been a really good run of form, and they've pushed themselves way up the table. Is it that's the issue? Are they just kind of saying at this point, to get out of this is going to be a lot more difficult than maybe they might have imagined? I don't know.
Obviously, Bristol Rovers have got a new manager in Joey Barton. Beat Accrington Stanley 4-1.
That's right.
And Accrington Stanley, are, in my opinion, are doing very well. They're a top 10 side, I would say, anyway. So a lot of teams around us are adapting to their situations, or bottom 7 mini league. They're all doing something about it. I don't know if it's a money issue where we can't afford to do anything about it, in terms of it's financially not feasible to get rid and get somebody new in, or is it also something that I thought about the other day, which is the budget and the constraints that Brian Barry Murphy is working with. Are there any other managers that would come in on those shoestring situations? I know Keith Hill did, obviously, but he came through the ranks. He was sort of in the background when we sacked Steve Parky, and then Hilly came in. So he always knew of these shoestring situations, what you want to call them. And Brian Barry Murphy has, because he's been with the club for 12 years on and off, as a player, as a coach, as a manager. I don't know if there is a manager out there that would see it as
a challenge worth taking.
Exactly. You've got this amount of money to be getting us out of this bottom 7 situation. I don't know if it's too difficult. It's
either that, or you start looking at managers in the National League and see who's doing really, really well, or in League 2, obviously, as well, and see if anyone will want to come in, take the challenge, and make a name for themselves as being either the guy that keeps you up, or if it is the case of you do go down, the guy that takes you back up, and that's a big thing for their CV, and they can bring themselves up through the ranks that way. It's tough in the lower leagues, and as you know, it's like dog eat dog, but it's every man for themselves, put it that way. I feel for you, because at the moment it does just feel like a team which is just bereft of confidence and can't really find a way to get out of it.
If these results were in November, where we haven't won in 15 or something, you would think, well, we've got X amount of games left to be able to do something about it. Time's ticking away. I think we've only got 12 games left.
And I suppose if we're in November, you can make a change earlier on and let a new manager come in and make the change. To do it with, like you say, however many games left. Teams have done it before, and it's been seen as suicide to get rid of a manager that late on in the season, and 9 times out of 10 never really goes well, unfortunately.
There's something that they have solved that a few weeks ago I mentioned about the first 15 minutes, everyone scoring against us in the first 15 minutes. At some point we managed to solve that situation, set it up a bit better in terms of the first 20 minutes we're fine. bar the Sunderland game, because I think Sunderland scored in the first 7 minutes. Apart from Sunderland, which you would probably expect Sunderland to be coming at you, you can probably take that on the chin. But if you were to isolate the Sunderland game and look at all the other ones, we have sort of set up a little bit better in the first 20 odd minutes. It's not the first 15 minutes that's now the problem, it's the rest of the game that's the issue. Like I said before, there's a few of them where you look at the goals and you go, Christ, that was an easy goal. Could they have not stopped that? And there's another goal that I'd just like to touch on, actually, which was, I only managed to watch the Sunderland highlights, but when I watched the second goal, something that's a bit annoying is there's something like 7 or 8 of our players in our penalty area when the cross came in and their player scored. So there's a communication problem there. There must be, because no one's tracking, no one's talking, and that shouldn't be going in, really. Roy Keane and whoever on Sky Sports would say there's 7 and 8 players there, how's that ball going in the back of the net? There would be, in my opinion.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
If it happened to Everton and you had 7 or 8,
you'd be raging.
Say you were playing Man City away and it happened, you would still be questioning it, I think.
Oh yeah,
it's not looking good at the moment.
Tough times, isn't it, Greg? Unfortunately,
something I was thinking about the other day. Obviously, we've been in this league about 8 years. I mean, we've had a good run. We've enjoyed it. If we get relegated, then parts of it have wore off to me. In terms of, I know we can't compete with Sunderland and Ipswich and whoever used to dip into our division and back down again, Blackburn and a few years ago. I know we can't compete with them, and it is nice to go away from home and go to the Stadium of Light, and it's a good away day, like me and my dad. After it happening for 7 or 8 years and Sunderland pasting you every time, I'm ready for Harrogate away.
I don't blame you, mate. A few easy wins would be nice, wouldn't it? A few wins away from home. We ain't got to worry too much about it. Proper football ground, one of these. I mean, if you look at it, League One, I mean, it's not called the Casey anymore, is it? Hull's I've got the name of the ground now. But that's a lovely modern stadium. MK Dons is a very well made modern stadium. What's it called? Still not. I can't remember the name of it. It used to be, I know it was the JJB, but obviously it's no longer the JJB. It was the DW, wasn't it? It's something else these days. It's a tough league to be in. I mean, at the weekend you've obviously got the Papa John's Trophy, is it, this weekend? You got Sunderland against Tranmere, which would be an interesting game to watch. Tranmere have got not a bad record at Wembley the past couple of years. A few playoff wins. Brenton Park South, as the merchandise I've seen on Twitter this week has said, which is, fair play to them, make the most of it. I've got a few mates of mine who are Rovers fans, and they'd be absolutely buzzing if they could go. I'm sure they'd be watching from home. But yeah, that's going to be an interesting. I'm not a huge lower league watcher, because obviously I think at the moment I was listening to a podcast called Football Cliches. The Athletic host it, and they got talking about something called football fatigue, and I was sort of listening to it whilst I was doing a bit of work in the afternoon, and I kind of got what they meant, where at the moment, because there's so much football on, you've got, all the Premier League games are on, you can watch Football League games on Sky, you've got National League, you've got Champions League, there's FA Cup in a couple of weeks. It does reach a point where actually you do sit there and go, am I going to watch another game? Am I going to spend all my Sunday watching, no offence to these teams, but Burnley against West Brom, for example? Am I going to sit there and watch that on a Thursday night? And it does get to the point where you have to kind of stop and go, I might just have to limit what I watch this weekend. We're lucky at the moment, the fact that obviously with COVID and everything else, all these games are on telly. Some games are less interesting than others, put it that way, and you have to really force yourself to sit through them or wait for the highlights to come out. Question I'll ask you, Greg, is the iFollow stuff that you get through the lower leagues, it's obviously not broadcast quality, but is it decent for, is it a tenner a game, whatever is it you pay, or you get it for your season ticket, don't you, if memory serves me correctly?
Yeah, it's good quality actually. Very rarely it buffers or anything like that. I usually just knock the quality down a little bit just so that it's a smoother stream, in terms of knock it to 720 or whatever it is, and there's no buffering. It's a good service. Yeah, it's good. We have our commentary team on it sometimes. Well, every game I should say. Actually, they've been going most away games, but I think it was Charlton where there were no commentary team a few months ago. Was it nearer to December or January? Charlton, was it 4-4 that one? I think Jimmy might remember that result from a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
They weren't allowed any commentary team in because COVID was that bad at the area. I know we've all been watching empty stadium football, one way or another since last year, but it was just even strange. It was like turning off, obviously it's like turning off the commentary on the iPlayer or whatever, on the settings on Sky or something, if you can do that still, I'm not too sure. But it was just an eerie game to listen to, because you could just hear all the players shouting to each other like, pass, no, good. And it's like, that's what it'd be like in a Sunday league, listening to that. Yeah. But it's an eerie. It's an eerie.
Professionals is weird, isn't it?
I'll be honest.
Full credit though to the Rochdale commentary team. Unbelievable. They've been really, really good. One of the lads, Paul Hudson, he ran about how privileged he is to be able to go to live football.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of commentators saying that, especially all the reporters saying that. I mean, from a watching point of view, I have got to watch it with the crowd noise. I just find it too odd to just listen to just the players. It does sound a little bit... I don't know, I mean, I remember watching... What was the first game back? It was Aston Villa.
It's jarring, isn't it?
Yeah, Aston Villa, Sheffield United, but just literally as lockdown. This is going back to last season. And it was almost just like a weird excitement to, first of all, A, see football again, but B, to see what it was like to listen to it with just, just the players. And it wasn't enjoyable. It shows, I know we all know this, but it shows how much you need fans. You need that interaction. You need, because a game can change in a second and the fans can really drive that forward. We've all been in grounds where it's been that way. Yeah, but I'm hoping, obviously, the sooner the better we get fans back in. But it's quite intriguing to see what the watching experience has been like, because, as a Premier League supporter in terms of a team, we have to rely on BT or Sky or Amazon or whoever it is that's hosting the game that week. So, yeah, I was always quite intrigued to see how the iFollow stuff worked. But I'm glad to see it's a good quality and that the lower league clubs aren't being shafted in any sort of way just because it's a little bit of a cheaper service or that kind of stuff. So... yeah, it's good to hear.
There is a bit of a trade-off sometimes with... I think, so for instance, if I didn't have a season ticket and I tuned into the Dale game last night and I paid a tenner, Dale only get £8 of it. But I can't remember who gets the £2. And then sometimes they split it in terms of if Shrewsbury buy so many, there's a certain percentage of that gets shifted to them and things like that.
Is it up to 2,000 away fans or after 2,000 away supporters buying in? There was some number which I think there was an issue with in League 2. There was people saying Bolton had quite an unfair advantage because they had more supporters, so therefore they're more likely to take a bigger cut of the revenue on away games because there's been more likelihood of a couple of thousand Bolton fans, away fans, tuning into an away iFollow.
Yeah, because you've got limited.
Rather than, for example, if you're a Salford or a Harrogate or a Forest Green or whoever, just picking 3 smaller clubs out the hat there, where you're not going to have that fan base to follow you away from home, so they're not going to get that same revenue from away iFollow or something. There was some kind of discrepancy there, I seem to remember, but I could be totally wrong.
There is,
but I think it's anything after 2,000. I think the away team takes it. Please, anyone who knows this, who's listening, about the iFollow, where the money goes and that certainly with away subscriptions, please let us know, because obviously we're not experts, we haven't reached it. I'm just guessing. I feel like the number 2,000 is involved in there somewhere though.
Personally, I think we are already relegated. I think it's too much it's going to take a lot. We need a lot of luck in every game. I know there have been players that have actually been consistent in this bad run. Like, in my opinion, Keohane's been good. Humphries has been okay to a certain degree because he's having to do double duty in terms of having to come back deeper to get the ball and then have to back up the field with it to create something. It's something that Ian Henderson used to do, I think it was last season or the season before. When we ran out of creativity, he would always sort of come back deeper to get the ball. But that's not always an ideal situation because you're getting in the trenches and then coming back up again with it. McShane's obviously been playing, and obviously his experience it's vital really, because I think we're relying too much on the young players. Obviously we were 2-0 down last night with Shrewsbury and we're bringing on Quadro Bar, playing a little bit of desperation football in terms of everything's a bit rushed, every tackle is a bit mistimed. I think he's playing with pressure because there were a tackle last night and I didn't know what that were all about, and then his shot and it weren't that great. But we shouldn't have to do that, really. And I think there's a lot of the young lads that are feeling the pressure, really. They took the young lad out, Roberts, the centre-back, for a few weeks. We played him last night, and I thought he did okay, actually. I thought he did all right. But I don't think we can afford to give players a rest because we've got 5 players injured or Ollie's suspended as well. So we can't really balance it out. So the young players that we do have on loan from Brighton and Man City or what have you, they're being overplayed, really. And I think that was something that happened to us last season, where players were being overplayed. We can't balance it out at the moment. We haven't really had a lot of the rub of the green in terms of some games I just think, I could just do with a penalty and it'll just boost the player morale a little bit. But we haven't had any of that, so
you better look.
12 games left, going to be tricky. Jimmy mentioned obviously we're playing Lincoln at the weekend, and that's going to be a really tough game.
They're a good side at Sincil Bank, Lincoln. Really good side.
Very good side. I do like BBM. I think, I mentioned a few weeks ago, he's a great lad. I met him a few times at one of the fans' forums last year. It were at the Rochdale Cricket Club. That were nice, and that were a good afternoon, just asking him questions about the team and things like that. I think he is a good manager in some respects, because you can see what he's trying to do sometimes, and you go, I can see what his long game is in terms of quadro bar, somebody else, I'll play him here, he's being rested. I think if he were an absolute atrocious manager, I don't think he's getting a draw at Newcastle and Man United, really. Yeah. So
makes sense.
You have to give him some sort of praise. He's not absolutely terrible. It's just sometimes he is out of his depth because of his inexperiences. I think he'll become a good manager. I know people will probably laugh at me for that comment, but if they sack him this year or next year or whatever, or the next club he ends up at, he'll learn from all this. He's only 41 or something like that. I bet everybody thought, Ferguson when he were in his 40s, like, he's rubbish. Through time he will develop.
At the moment of all the seasons as well, but lots of managers have had relegations on their CV early on. I think, I could be wrong, but Jurgen Klopp, I think, got relegated with Mainz in his early days, and I'm pretty sure Arsene Wenger may have had a few poor seasons. So I think it does, it does happen. For example, look at someone like a Ryan Lowe, who's been up and down. He's a good young manager.
Yeah.
He's doing well at Plymouth, but he's been up, he's been down with Barry and now with Plymouth as well. And you think, well, it happens. Managers sometimes they go stale in places, or they don't quite work out, or it just doesn't happen. And I think the budget had quite a bit to do with it. But he could turn out to be a really good manager, and he could still get you out of trouble. But it's just looking at the moment like, what's going to change? Something needs to change. What is going to change is going to turn that form around. You've got 36 points left to play for. You need to get over half those points, I think, to be secure of staying up.
I think there is something that you might want to talk about, Jimmy. It's Everton beating West Brom 1-0 and Big Sam not being particularly happy about things.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. Yes, beautiful. The fact that we just about scraped a 1-0 win over Gravy Boy Smith's team. Fantastic. And he's loving it, Greg. Fantastic. And as well, the disallowed goal. Oh, beautiful. Mwah. Chef's kiss that West Brom have gone on to not do much after that as well. I just don't get it with him at all.
So it do remind me of that South Park meme where he's drinking the guy's tears. It was just a little bit of like, all right, Sam, yeah, we get it. You wanted to stay on, but we moved on. Get on with it. You're at West Brom now. All right, we got a bit lucky in the game, but move on. You know what? End of the day, we scored.
It is quite nice.
The goal was offside. Albeit, it was tight, but it was offside. Get on with it. Focus on the next game. You've you've still got a chance to stay up, West Brom, but I think
it was offside.
But I think they will go down.
It was offside. I mean, with Allardyce as well. Oh, look at what Everton have done now since I left, and I never got back in the transfer market. He spent, 40-50 million on Theo Walcott and Cheng Tosin combined.
Players.
I love Cheng Tosin. What a great name.
I mean, look, one's on loan at Hampton, they've both basically gone back on loan to their former clubs.
Yeah.
Oh, is he not with Everton anymore?
No, he left.
Cheng Tosin's gone back on loan to Besiktas.
End of January. January window.
But basically, long story short, Allardyce got given more money in the transfer market than he reckons he did, and spunked it up the wall on awful signings.
And this isn't going to go down very well with you two, but I quite like Big Sam.
I like it in a way that he's kind of your proper English star manager. The fact that he's a throwback to olden days, put it that way. He's not going to be. You're never going to see him like a Guardiola or a Klopp or Mourinho or those or Ancelotti as well, in those kind of names. He's good at what he does. He's never going to take a team to the title, to a top four. He comes in when teams are struggling, gets them organised, and his record is not bad actually. Keeps teams up. And at the end of the day, he came into Everton at a time when we needed someone like that. We just didn't want him. I think that was ultimately the issue.
Is it not telling though when you look at his record as a manager? Yeah, he kept Sunderland up. He did a good job at Bolton, to his credit. He got him into Europe. Played he'd left to go to Newcastle by the time they were playing Bayern Munich as well. Got him to a League Cup final. He's done some good jobs, don't get me wrong. Crystal Palace, he kept them up. But is it not telling Everton, Newcastle, West Ham, the three biggest clubs he's managed, I'm talking clubs, not international,
all sacked him off.
None of those sets of fans like him.
Yeah.
West Ham fans can't stand him.
There's an arrogance that comes with him, which...
Well, they were booing and
you don't know what you're doing.
Raging him out the stadium for 20 minutes for a game against Portsmouth. You don't know what you're doing. That was, about 10, 15 years ago now.
Easily, yeah.
And obviously Everton fans, as a whole, can't stand him. The three biggest clubs he's managed, and I'm sorry not to disrespect Blackburn, Bolton, Sunderland, whatever, but none of those fans like the way he plays. They don't like his tactics. They don't like him as a man. There's an arrogance about him that isn't warranted by what he actually does. Yes, he's good at fighting fires. Yes, he's good at getting you out of the mire. But when he's required to get you above a certain level, he just won't do it.
That's his glass ceiling.
The fact that I think was at the start, I saw West Brom achieve more shots on target in the first half against Everton than Allardyce managed in his entire time at Everton.
Really?
As an Everton manager. Something stupid like that.
Wow.
And it's like, it was atrocious football.
Where did we finish that season?
And the man... Eighth, somehow.
How did we finish 8th in that season?
Because it's forgotten, to be fair. We started out, when Allardyce took charge, we were actually 13th, not in the bottom three.
Yeah, we beat West Ham.
We beat West Ham at home 4-0. You were at that game, Matt. We beat West Ham 4-0. Rooney scored a hat-trick. Allardyce took over the next game. And okay, we had some decent results. But I think we grinded out a few draws against Liverpool and that.
We won at Huddersfield, wasn't it? And places like that.
I think one at Stoke, who went down that year. And I just think it was quite a poor quality league. I don't think the Premier League's that great a quality all round anyway. But ultimately, the man's just a bit of a meme. As in, you're going to get a Big Sam, you're going to get the old style.
But the issue we had as
Long
well.
ball, he'll keep you in the league, and now it's like, is that all you're going to do?
But the issue there is...
I mean, you can say he's not a Guardiola or a Klopp. I mean, I say it in the nicest way. He's not even a Sean Dyche. I really like Sean Dyche. I like the way he plays. Yeah. I think he's brilliant, and he's built Burnley to be a horrible side to play against, as we will find out this weekend.
Yeah.
Allardyce, he always seems to leave club in financial ruin after he leaves as well. Plus,
I think also, that was my point. So, he lost all credibility when that happened. I mean, the Oninga manager with a 100% win record.
Yes, that's true.
Played. But yeah, he lost all credibility with that kind of thing. And yeah, it's one of the weird... going back to that West Ham game you mentioned, the story behind going to that game is I got a ticket for, I think it was 13 quid, because there were that many people who didn't want to go and see Everton because we were that poor at that stage. They were selling tickets for golden prices, and I just bought one thinking, if it's 13 quid, even if we lose, it's 13 quid, plus a tenner on travel and a bag of chips and a pie. And Wayne Rooney bagged a hat-trick and we won 4-0. One from the halfway line, so probably the best 20 quid I've ever spent. But you could, that was under Unsworth, and Unsworth inspired a bit of confidence in those players, and probably did enough in his little time in charge to steer us far clear of any sort of relegation battle. It was a team that was... No team's too good to go down, but it would have been pretty special to be relegated, even with the squad that was assembled that season, which was odd, because it was just full of number 10s and no actual striker.
It was just about 50 attacking midfielders and no centre forwards.
Yeah, and that goes... going back to Everton again, that's still a transfer window which we are still fixing now, which is kind of mental when you look back at it. There's players who we still are trying to get rid of 5 years later who signed up. Oh yeah, there's players that season. A few of them have stuck with it. Sigurdsson's one has obviously stuck with it. Rooney went soon after. Davy Klaassen went soon after. But we had players on. Martina, yeah, he was one that went end of last year, year before last.
Yeah.
And you can see there's a lot, because the issue with buying those players is they're all put on big contracts. And no one in their right mind is going to give, as much as I don't mind Yannick Bolasie, no one's going to give him 75k a week anymore.
No.
And he's found his level at Borough, and I hope he does well. He's on loan for the rest of the season. I'm pretty sure he's had a contract in the summer, so he'll be gone again. There's a couple of years under.
Walsh.
Steve Walsh. That's it. Sorry.
Marcel Brands
now, but Steve Walsh is the one that brought some toshness to that football club. And yeah, you can see why we still need. I mean, going back to the Chelsea game, you can see the level that we still need to compete at in terms of the transfer window, and how well this year in particular, how well that yes, we still spent 60 million quid, whatever it was, but it was money well spent. Look at Ben Godfrey, look at James when he's played, Decore, he's apparently out for till after the international break. He's a huge miss as well. But the club, it seems, a lot more got a plan going forward, and I think I'm happy to have Marcel Brands and Ancelotti picking who he wants to sign, what they want to sign, I should say. And I feel much more at ease knowing that both of them have got good football brains, and will buy the players and we'll get good deals for them, most importantly, and we'll not overspend.
Well, that's the bonus all around, isn't it, really, when you don't overspend and they are a decent player.
Yeah, I mean, COVID obviously has proved that either way. I mean, I think Arsenal announced losses of 48 million quid the other day because of COVID. Teams are going to be announcing big losses, especially in the Premier League, due to COVID and obviously the lack of fans and that kind of thing as well. And every penny really counts. And as you go down into the lower leagues, I mean, Greg, you can definitely vouch for this. Really, every penny counts, and you want to get your money's worth for whoever it is you bring in, and you've got to be very careful.
It's like selective transfers in one respect. I watched a little bit of the Dale Fans Forum about half an hour just before we started this podcast, and they were talking about how careful we have to be with signing players because we haven't had any money coming in the gates, the club, even because of no fans in and things like that. They mentioned that we signed obviously Stephen Humphreys, and I think they mentioned McLaughlin for money. Why I say that is we usually get the broken toy player. We usually sign the player that's coming on a free, a player that isn't regarded as a very good player, but we sign him and he becomes what I would say a good player. An example of that would Chris O'Grady. He played for Bury, he played for Oldham, and I've got a few Bury mates who support Bury and Oldham as well, a few mates who support Oldham, and they were both saying, oh, he's absolutely terrible. But when we got him, he's one of the best players I've seen in a Dale shirt. So we've had that obviously broken toy players sometimes, and that's really pulled off. But yeah, you're right about that. It's you've got to be even more selective in these obviously testing times with which players you're getting, how you can get them in. Is it the long game? Are they going to be good in another 2 seasons because they're fairly young, or they're not, or things like that? Or is it going to be the short term? For instance, about 18 months ago we signed Paul McShane, but we knew that short term his experience would be, needed.
Vital.
Yeah. So there's a lot to consider with not getting the funds in at any club at the moment. I think obviously you could say that for any club looking at all the leagues.
Any professional, even into non-league and that kind of thing. It's absolutely massive. They really are having to be extremely careful. I mean, yeah, I can't even imagine where you'd even start with half of them. Having to kind of look at who's worth it and making that call, knowing that it might cost you big down the line, or it might just pay off. Who knows?
An ex-Dale player that's doing quite well at the moment, it's Craig Dawson for West Ham. Seems to be scoring a few, and West Ham seem to be creeping up the Premier League table. Would you consider Craig Dawson for England, do you think? Is that a possibility?
I would have to say, you asked me to name the Euro 2021 squad tomorrow, I wouldn't put Craig Dawson in it. I think that if you're going to go with 4 centre-halves, I think there's 4 better English centre-halves than him that would fit Southgate's system more, that he would know better. And I think it shouldn't be ignored, the fact that Dawson's actually playing. It's no surprise that he's doing a lot better when he's got Declan Rice and who's the other lad in the centre of the park for West Ham?
Souček.
Is it Souček? He's got Declan Rice and Thomas Souček's from one of the players of the season in the Premier League for me. And Declan Rice has been fantastic. He's an absolute Rolls Royce of a player, reads the game so well. Should be starting for England at the Euros, if you ask me. It's no surprise that any defence, not least one with, the likes of Craig Dawson, is doing better with those two shielding them. It shouldn't also be forgotten that in the last 2 seasons before this one, Dawson went down with Watford and was it West Brom before that. You don't, not to say he's a bad player, he's a very good player, but let's not forget, I said before, if managers can have relegation on their CVs and turn out fine, obviously so can players. Of course, some of the best players we've seen have initially been relegated, but Dawson's what now, 30? He's not like he's a 21, 22-year-old. He's 30 years of age, and he's had back-to-back relegations with poorer sides, and he's thriving with a midfield in front of him that is quality, and Rice and Souček. Not to say he's a bad player, I just think if you put him in the international stage, without that European experience, say if West Ham do make the Europa League, that step up in class would be quite a lot for him to take on, I think, internationally. I think if he does go, he's not going to start, because I just think there's better centre-halves, more experienced centre-halves out there that are also younger as well. So it's tough, really, because he's obviously made a very good career for himself, but I think you can't discount that he's playing in a much more settled system with better players in front of him than he had at Watford and West Brom in previous years.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, full credit to him. West Ham have been brilliant this season, and he is obviously one of the main factors of that. I'd have to agree. I can think, let's say if England take 4 or 5 centre-halves, Southgate's got a habit of picking some players based on form, but I think he's going to know with what... Sorry, he's going to go even with, for him, what is tried and tested. So you're going to see, definitely John Stones will go, Michael Keane will probably go. I think, as good as he's been, yeah, I agree. I think there's better centre-halves in the Premier League. Oh, better, sorry.
Let's not forget, you've got Maguire.
Yeah, Harry Maguire's in there as well. I mean, if you go back to the last World Cup squad in particular, there's not many of those players in that World Cup squad who aren't going to make the Euros. Put it that way. And like I say, the big discussion again has been about Jordan Pickford as well with the first choice goalkeeper. But yeah, Dawson, as good as he's been, I agree. Declan Rice around him has helped him. Souček has been phenomenal, and he's all player Souček, because he's not the type of player that would stand out, but he's the type of player that everyone would want in their side, because he gets stuck in, he gets himself a goal. He's Moyes' new Marouane Fellaini, and that's exactly what he wanted.
Yeah, there is a hint of Fellaini, or indeed another man that has been relegated, Idrissa Gueye.
Yeah, he's just got legs in that midfield. I mean, Moyes is an odd relationship between a lot of Evertonians and David Moyes. I think mainly because after he left, there was an element of disrespect with the joint bids for Baines and Fellaini, and then he just spent the money. I'm actually quite glad to see him doing well. You can see he's enjoying the job, and I think West Ham fans as ever to a certain extent. The ownership is that's another story completely altogether. But I'm happy to see Moyes doing well and getting a team which I think shows his style of management and shows his style of football very well, which is dogged and will get stuck in. But actually, when they want to turn it on, play some really good football. They got a bit lucky at Goodison this season with Souček got the winner, wasn't it? But again, as poor as we were. But yeah, they've been a bit of breath of fresh air in that top the fifth of them, aren't they? Yeah, because we're sixth. And you know what? It's great. It's kind of sums up this season in a nutshell, where anyone goes on a run of form, and if you just happen to get that style of football correct, and Dawson has played a part in that centre half. Yeah, great. You know what? It makes the league more interesting. I don't want to see the same top 6 all the time, or top 7, or whatever you want to call it. You want to see something a bit different. It's a little bit boring. City being, 14 points clear, I think they are, with United got a game in hand on them. But yeah, it's nice to see another team. I don't think they'll finish top 4. I think the top 4 that's in place at the moment, Leicester, the only one that would be a little bit weird, but well, not weird as such, but the only ones I question who might fall away potentially. But I think that's the top 4 you'll see at the end of the season, depending on Liverpool, if they can find something after the weekend. I mean, I watched it again against Fulham, and it's like Groundhog Day. It's just the weirdest thing to watch. You're talking before, Greg, about a team lacking in confidence, and they are the epitome of that at the moment. 6 home games in a row to losing the league is insane. I mean, I think they're winning tonight against RB Leipzig.
Well, I was going to say that they're 2-0 up, so in a home game, inverted commas, in Budapest.
Yeah, home gaming. Yeah.
Is that where it is?
Yeah, they've done the same again because of COVID.
The whole Anglo-German sort of COVID restrictions.
Well, they're 2 up on the night as well.
They're hungry, aren't they?
So they're 4-0 up on aggregate. They're well for him.
So what we can deduce, base, is Liverpool should move all their home games for the rest of the season to Budapest.
Yeah.
I like Craig Dawson, but
why don't they just move the whole club out there and just stay out there and Hungary? That'd be fine as well. That'd be great.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. I'd be happy with that if they could do that. It's for their own good. You know.
So I like Craig Dawson, but don't see him going to the Euros. Unfortunately, as kind of interesting as it would be to see him get a shock inclusion, I think would be
unless he's got a Scottish name.
That. A lot of the centre halves in the Premier League, or English centre halves, all of a sudden fall foul of a lot of injuries. I don't think he's getting in just yet.
I think it's one of those with Dale fans where, because he's one of our own, there's more of a, what's the word?
Yeah, it's an affinity towards him.
More of an affiliation.
Yeah, it's like a bit like Everton sort of keep an eye on Lukaku at Milan a little bit. It's that type of thing, isn't it, where you always want them to do well.
Yeah.
If there's been no ill feelings with that player, things like that.
You must see it more with a player who's come through from the lower leagues and has performed at a high level. Yeah, you're going to feel pride with that. I mean, I can't think of, I'm trying to think of Tranmere, who they've got players that have come up through that and had that kind of level. There's not been many, but
West Ham have got Aaron Cresswell.
Yeah.
Who started out at Tranmere. And there are other players as well. I think one of the main ones in our lifetime, Jason Kumas.
Yeah,
who
absolutely.
We will to do really well from West Brom, Wigan in the Premier League, Wales International. Yeah. There has been a host of players down the years, I'm sure I've forgotten some as well, that have, Dale Jennings moved to Bayern Munich. We were all hoping he'd go on and win the Bundesliga and the Champions League, and it didn't quite head that way for him, sadly. But,
remember that.
They can't all turn out okay. But, yeah, I mean, you do find with Rochdale, with Tranmere, with smaller clubs that, you've got that academy graduate or that young lad that you've taken at 16, 18, moulded him into a better player, he's been cast off by a Premier League academy or wherever it may be, and you feel like you feel like it's almost like letting your child out into the world when you sell them up to a higher end club, and you just want them to do as well as they can, because it's putting your club's name on the map to see a player that was once yours play for internationally or play in the Premier League or whatever league in the world. So yeah, absolutely, I can see why Dale fans would certainly, and I'd like to see Dawson in the England side. I think he's a good player, and it'd be a great story from, where did he play? Was it Ramsbottom or which one? Radcliffe.
Oh, we got
one of the other, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think
Radcliffe Borough. So from Radcliffe Borough to the Euros is a heck of a story, but I just don't think he's at that level.
No, I mean,
unless you scream Declan Rice in front of him for the entire Euros, which actually might work quite well.
I mean, we've had the sort of fairy tale story with Ricky Lambert. I know he plays for a team that you guys don't particularly. Well, he did play for a team that you guys don't particularly like.
Yeah, I can't stand Southampton.
Yeah. But obviously, when that happened when Red Lambert scored for England, that was something else. That because we don't get it as Rochdale in terms of many ex-players up until recently. Past 12 years, it's been great in terms of Grant Holt has played in the Premier League and scoring against Arsenal and everybody. Ricky Lambert was scoring for fun for Southampton. Obviously, Craig Dawson at the moment is doing well. He played in the Olympics for Great Britain.
We had it with the ultimate with Wayne Rooney. I mean, the fact that it still makes me laugh that he's Man United's top goal scorer. It still makes me laugh to this day that after all the United fans saying we hate Scousers, and you go, hang on, but your best goal scorer is a Scouser?
Build a bonfire. Yeah. Put the Scousers on the top, except our record goal scorer.
Yeah, hang on,
right.
he can stay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit like what did the Romans do for us? Like
yeah.
What have the Scouts ever done for us? Apart from the record goal scorers and yeah.
But again, of what he did for England as well, it's always a nice sort of satisfaction that he came from Everton and came through that academy and has gone on to be, in a weird way, one of the most underrated players in the Premier League, because he was never the most flamboyant to a certain extent. He had his odd little traits, as we all know, but a player that I thoroughly enjoyed watching. It took me a while to get over him leaving, I'll be honest, in 2004. Yeah. But he's come out on record, and I think everyone else agrees now that if that move hadn't happened, we would have been in some real issues financially.
Financial oblivion.
It would have been tough to come back from. And again, that didn't been that season. We went on to finish fourth with... I watched, I think, Carragher the other night compared the West Ham team this season to the Everton side of 2004-05. And he's spot on. It was a team which didn't have much in terms of, not quality as such, star power is a good way to put it, but they just got results. They just knew how to beat, win games. No matter 1-0 that season was insane. I'm still proud we're the only teams finishing in the top four with a minus goal difference.
They were
all on the pace the week before the Arsenal game, clearly. And then we lost.
We were already finished 4th by then and lost 7-0 to Arsenal. Which people say, oh, you lost 7-0 to Arsenal. Like, yeah, we'd already qualified for the Champions League by then.
We went arsed, Chris.
It was arsed, doesn't count.
And then was it Bolton away in that same season?
4th with -1 is special. Then we lost away at Bolton.
Yeah, 3-2, isn't it?
Yeah, but you know, when you've come 4th with -1 goal difference, you know you've done something right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've got 2 odd records. We've also got a good record. We've got the only team's gone 4th with a minus goal difference. And I think we've also got the highest points total to finish 5th.
Don't know anymore.
Has it changed now? I know we had it.
72 points. 72 points in 2013-14, but I don't know if that's still the case.
I'll look it up for next time, but I'm pretty sure it might still be in place. Yeah, we messed it up.
We've got one of the lowest to finish 4th and one of the highest to finish 5th, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Because we only got like 61 points when we came 4th.
Oh, we got bugger all. Because it was just a bunch of 1-0 wins and the odd draws. It was just like quite a weird season when you look back at it.
We lost 10 games and came 4th.
Yeah.
Charlton did the double over us.
Forgot about that. Because I mean, that season there was a few standout results. You beat Liverpool, we beat United. Both are good, obviously. I'm trying to think. We lost to Arsenal heavily on the first day of the season. All right, in saying that. Mm-hmm. And that point, everyone was kind of like, "Oh no, this is going to be a tough season." And then we sold Thomas Gravison to Real Madrid. That's a weird season when you look back at it. I probably still got the DVD somewhere.
He was great for half a season and went to Real Madrid for £2 million because he was in the last year of his contract.
Yeah, Real Madrid. Yeah.
And we signed James Beattie from Southampton for a club record £6 million, and he was awful.
He got sent. The first game he got sent off, or second game he got against Chelsea.
Chelsea game, he headbutted William Gallas and got sent off for 8 minutes.
James Beattie, what a player!
Also, not forgetting as well that we signed Beattie to massive fanfare because it was club record signing. We also brought in Mikel Arteta on loan to like a ripple of applause.
Yeah.
And he turned out to be like amazing. It was like,
I still love watching Arteta. Yeah. That's one of the.
He was so good.
I'm trying to think,
I was genuinely good when we sold him.
Yeah, so there'd be questions I would ask about players that you were genuinely gutted when they're sold, and he is definitely one of them because you got the feeling we got
10 million quid as well.
Yeah, it was a sniff 10 million quid. Yeah, bugger
10 to Arsenal.
Because again, of financial issues, it was just a case of they had to sell, and Arsenal came looking for him, and they got a hell of a deal out of him. Yeah, still gutted the day he left.
Future cup winning captain, wasn't he? So
yeah, and now a manager, which is bizarre.
So we've had another question this week from Anthony Ellison, who's a Manchester United fan. He's one of my mates. I hope you're doing okay, Anthony. I've not seen you for a while, obviously, with this lockdown. He's also the chap that's done I don't know if anyone spotted the illustration of me in the Dale kit. He's on Instagram. I'll try and drop his information on our Twitter feed. Anthony's question this week is, where do you see football going in the next 50 years? And I'll come to Matt first on that one.
It's a tough question, this, because from what angle do you kind of approach it? I mean, I had a thought about it, because obviously we do plan these things. You wouldn't guess it, but we do.
Well, we try to plan.
We try to, yeah. It's a lot of us off the cuff. The first thing that came to mind straight away is, and I'll keep this to just things like Premier League football, but I can see what will be like a Netflix style thing will come into the football, I think very, very soon actually, where I think you'll pay, I don't know, 20 quid a month and you'll get access to games that way. I think you'll see the likes of Sky and those BT, Amazon Prime deals, I think you'll see them drop off. VAR is going to be the other thing that's going to come in. I think it's been saw this week, the UEFA president saying that it brings an extra level of excitement because you're waiting for a result. And I sat there and went, what are you chatting? That's just stupid. But that's going to become more prominent. I hope that they look at it and it doesn't take over completely. I hope you're going to start to see things like the offside rule maybe come in with a bit more ruling like cricket does, for example, when you have the umpire's call coming in. But 50 years is a long, long time. I'd like to see us win a trophy. If you go back 50 years, what beyond the late 70s, early 80s, the fundamentals aren't too different. It's just the money aspect of it, and I think it will reach. I think the money's going to think it will reach a point where it will peak. I think it's still on its way there at the moment. You look at the money being spent on transfers still. It had to reach a point where that just doesn't become viable to go forward with. And I think after that you might see then the game start to come back in terms of price level. And I think what will happen there is you might see one of the richest clubs struggle. You might see someone like a City or Chelsea, these are just examples either way, where those owners either A, pull out or they don't put the investment into it. And I think you're going to start to see a lot of regulation around how the football in terms of financially changes a lot. That I think probably has to happen. And I think you're going to have to see the gap of the Premier League and the Football League teams, that gap has to lessen, because a lot of clubs spend big in the Football League to get into the Premier League and nearly ruin themselves, and that can't happen. That's not viable going forward over the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it is. But yeah, an interesting question. But that was my sort of first thoughts that came in straight away. But the main thing is, we better win a bloody trophy. I'll be 78 for Christ's sake. I can't be 78 and not remember us winning a trophy from 1995. That'd be depressing.
Remember anything when you're 78, Matt? Who knows?
Well, that's it. Maybe that's for the best. Yeah, who knows?
I've got some notes, and I start off with 2 words: quite pessimistic. You can tell it's going to be fun. Right. Basically, I can see, and this is in light also now of the Juventus owner Agnelli coming out, basically complaining about the Champions League and wanting to reformat it into a whole new system. He's basically pushing for a European-style Super League, and I can see the whole Euro Super League's been mooted for a while. You had United and Liverpool doing the whole thing with the EFL a while ago and all that, and money talks at the end of the day, and ultimately it's going to be sad. But I can see there being some kind of NFL or American-style sports league around Europe where you get to watch Liverpool against Bayern Munich every week. It's going to be utterly soulless, full of identikit stadiums. I'm aware that Everton are building Bramley-Moore Dock, I know that. But, full of these, basically Lego arenas that all look the same, apart from different colour seats. The identity's going to go in teams. It's going to be like everyone's like the Carolina Panthers. Who cares? Who are they? Just some team.
Yeah.
I can't imagine in the end there being any promotion relegation from the Super League, if there is one, because why would the Super League clubs vote to basically Turkey's voting for Christmas in it? So they're going to want to ring fence their own little world, and that there will still be clubs outside of that little Super League, but they'll be like the minor league clubs. You get in minor league baseball and stuff like that. So, for example, a club like an Everton, or a West Ham or a Newcastle, could be like the minor league teams. Also, want to point out with Agnelli and Juventus, he says, it should be all this, Super League, and it shouldn't have these commercially unviable whatever clubs that are in there. Mate, you've been knocked out of the European Cup by Ajax, Lyon, and now Porto in the last 3 seasons, all of whom would have their chances of the Champions League qualification greatly reduced and affected by any European Super League, which shows to me that really it's such a flawed concept. I can't stand it. I hate it. I would even go back to the Champions only system, getting back into the European Cup, straight knockout, but that's not going to happen.
No.
I even think as well, possibility, if I remember the 39th game thing that Richard Scudamore put ahead, we may even have more exhibition style games. So a Merseyside derby in Dubai, for example, or United against Arsenal being played in San Francisco. There's a 39th exhibition game, especially in the light of wanting to raise more money. Well, when the world comes back to normal, what better to do than find a 100,000-seater stadium in Southeast Asia and stick Man City and Chelsea there or something? That'll make the Premier League loads of money. Or El Clasico, well, they've already got things like the Spanish Super Cup, the Italian Super Cup getting moved to the Middle East or the Far East for games. So what's to say that the Charity Shield won't do it as well? And I know VAR, we spoke about tech and stuff like that. I can see that making more decisions to the point where we don't end up with any on-field officials. Stockley Park controlling all decisions in games, to the point where they don't have on-field refs, get rid of all human error, which I think is, again, utterly soulless. But my biggest one, and I want to know what you think about this one, and anyone, I know this has all been doom and gloom and quite negative. This one's probably the weirdest one of them all, but I want to know what people think if they listen as well. Will esports become more lucrative than actual football in 50 years' time?
Yes.
Bearing in mind, lots of people get paid money to win FIFA tournaments, Call of Duty tournaments. Didn't somebody win a Fortnite tournament and win £3 million or something for playing a video game?
Oh, easily, yeah.
Ridiculous.
League of Legends, you name it.
Well, in the end, people support esports teams rather than actual football teams. Will football become basically a virtual sport? And will esports and transfers and wages and prize money be more to win a FIFA tournament or Pro Evolution Soccer or whatever, esports there is, than actual real life getting out in the fresh outdoors football?
I don't know if it'll go that bad.
That's something that, yeah.
I mean, I suppose you'll probably see it more.
It's getting bigger.
It's definitely. Oh, it's getting bigger. By the way, my issue with things like FIFA, as a competitive sport in inverted commas, as good as you can be, it still comes down to an element of chance.
Isn't that football in general?
Yes, but what I mean by that is the game controlling it. It's not the human element of it. Yeah. If you watch people who play the game, if good as these games are getting in terms of realism, they're never going to quite live up to a proper game of football with 22 players on a pitch and that kind of stuff as well. Until I see 11 against 11 FIFA, will I ever really take it seriously as an esport? Because that I'd be quite intrigued to watch. If you have to have 11 separate players controlling 11 separate people on the pitch, and how you work that as a game, because it's in there as pro clubs, it's in there at the moment, so you can do it. It's hilarious from what I've watched of it, because it's just chaos. But to see that as a professional aspect, I would actually be quite intrigued about, I'll be honest, and see how well it would work.
I think there will be a deciding winner in every game. If it ends up 0-0, I think they'll go to penalties just in a regular league game. There has to be a winner. I think that'll be a thing. In the NBA, they have like all-star games. The NBA had an all-stars game last weekend, I think. Team Messi against Team Ronaldo in an all-stars game, like they do in the NBA with Team LeBron against Team whoever.
Yeah,
I can see that being a thing, and pumping a lot of interest and money into it and things like that. And I think there'll be more of that in the future, I reckon, because you can see it in American sports, and I think that'll bleed into our sports a little bit more.
The 39th game thing, it wasn't trial, but it was brought up as a thing a couple of years ago and got heavily rejected. The bit of positivity that can come in with something like that, in terms of from a fan's point of view, I hope that the fans will always have a voice to a certain extent, or the fans have always got a way of voicing their opinion, whether it be with their feet, by not going to certain aspects of it. At the end of the day, if they put a 39th game on and no one turns up, they ain't going to do it again anytime soon. I always hope that the fans will always have some elements of power over the guys in charge, in a way that if an idea comes up, a bit like a 39th game where everyone's against it, that we at least get a say and say, no, stop trying to do this, it isn't going to work, we don't want it. It ruins the credibility of a league when you're having a random game between, like I said, a derby between, United or City or that kind of stuff, and you're playing it in Australia or something along those lines. What I will say, and what I forgot to bring up and I'm going to mention now, player welfare will be, I hope, a lot better. We've seen it this season with concussion subs. And I think the argument has come in recently as well about the international break that's due to come up. I think it was... Which federation was it has cancelled the friendlies due to COVID regulations? I can't remember who it was. But there's still talks of international games going on, and there's a lot of club teams who are basically saying to their players, you're not going, because if you go to that country, you have to quarantine for 10 days or whatever it is when you come back. And we're not doing that. And I do hope player welfare in general becomes better. One of the weird things, again, on point, is will heading go out the game? Will the idea of heading a ball...
At the moment, isn't it?
It's already been discussed now. Will we be sat here in 20 years' time and heading a ball in a game of football is not allowed? It'd be a very weird thing to watch, because some of the best goals I've ever seen have been a good ball header at the back post.
Looks like PSG have eliminated Barcelona from the Champions League.
That was nailed on, wasn't it? I would have thought to start the game.
What score was it on the night? I mean, they were 4-1 winners, weren't they, in Barcelona? But what score was it on the night?
1-1.
It's just finished 1-1.
1-1, right? Okay.
And Messi missed a penalty at the end of the first half as well.
Oh, did he?
But they were. He did, yeah. He scored an absolute peach of a goal. If you get what's the highlights, his goal was unbelievable. But I think Barcelona were always going out for the first leg.
They were sitting ducks, weren't they?
Yeah.
So that's Messi and Ronaldo out in the last 16 of the Champions League.
Certainly is. Last time that happened.
But Haaland and Mbappe are through. They're the future, aren't they? Apparently, it's changing of the guard. It's happening.
Yeah,
it's happening. I think now. I don't think they'll ever reach the heights of Messi and Ronaldo. This could be a discussion for another time. But then you forget how young they both are.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to get two players of that magnitude step out in their own level. I think you're going to get a lot of players in a similar vein who are all talked about, but never to that level of Messi and Ronaldo. I mean, Messi's goal scoring record speaks for itself, as does Ronaldo's, in fairness. Pele, as much as he wants to talk about scoring in the park against a bunch of kids, or whatever it is he was trying to claim at the start of the year, Messi's record and Ronaldo's is just another level. And I think you're going to see a lot of players sitting in a very, very good capacity, but not that. And it's the phrase I hate to use, but the GOAT, that kind of stuff. I don't think you're going to see those kind of things in the next couple of years. As good as Haaland and Mbappe have been.
Look at Haaland's goal. I mean, Mbappe as well, but look at Haaland's goal scoring record. It is like one a game.
True. You never know.
Okay, he's only very young and he's still got plenty of time, and it could dry up a little bit, but his record, he's an absolute machine. He's a cyborg. He actually is a cyborg, unfortunately. I'm so good he didn't choose to play for England, by the way. But
imagine. We'd have ruined him.
Could he have done?
He born in Leeds.
Who was?
Erling Haaland.
His dad's Alfinger, isn't he?
His dad's Alfinger. Haaland used to be Leeds and Man City player. Roy Keane Brooks.
Yeah. I just didn't know he was born in Leeds.
I feel really bad for Alfinger Haaland. Everyone knows him for the guy who Roy Keane broke.
The guy Roy Keane broke. And now the one whose son's... Roy Keane broke a lot of people, admittedly. Yeah.
But it's a proper series.
And now he's the one
he's mentally breaking Micah Richards at this moment.
Oh, God, yeah.
I like Micah Richards.
He's such a breath of fresh air, isn't he, Micah Richards? Like,
the pair of them are offense because you get that sort of real. Roy Keane's got the proper dour getting it, but whereas Richards, I think, mocks him enough and just says little things that it makes it quite a good watch. Actually, I do enjoy watching the pair of them.
Oh yeah,
it's funny watching the Manchester derby on Sunday because Keane was very, very smug after that. Because fair play, United, they deserved it. They were brilliant. Give them the credit that Solskjaer's got this weird habit of, especially against City, just getting these results and just setting them up to be absolutely spot on. From what I watched, City, very, very poor. But United were top notch. They were brilliant.
Right, so Greg, where can the listeners, our lovely listeners, find us on social media?
Our lovely listeners can find us on Twitter, Men in Blue Podcast on Twitter. If anybody's got any more questions they'd like to ask us, or if they want to be on the show, if you support Oldham, if you support...
Guests are welcome.
Don't even support an English club.
Yeah.
We'd like to thank everybody for listening.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye for now.
Sports Social Podcast Network.